All right, everybody, are you ready for another deep dive? This time, we're jumping into the world of video games and Chinese mythology with, get this, Black Myth, Wukong. You've probably heard the buzz, right? It's kind of a big deal, jaw-dropping graphics, intense gameplay, and it's based on this legendary Chinese novel, Journey to the West.
Yeah, it's really captured people's imaginations.
Big time. So we're going to break down what makes this game so special, how it's connected to this classic story, and why it's making waves not just in the gaming world, but culturally too. Get this? Black Myth. Wukong is actually the first AAA game to come out of China, which is huge.
It's a big deal for the Chinese gaming industry.
For sure. And we'll get into all the reasons why a little later. But first, for those who haven't had the chance to experience the epicness that is Journey to the West.
A classic.
What's the story all about? Give us the rundown.
Well, imagine this. You've got this mischievous monkey king, son Wukong, who's born from a stone.
Okay, already sounds interesting.
Oh, it gets better. This monkey king, he's insanely powerful, has all these magical abilities, but he's also a bit of a trickster, you know?
I'm kind of getting a low-key vibe here.
Yeah. Anyway, son Wukong, he's tasked with escorting this monk, Wanzang, on a pilgrimage to India to retrieve Buddhist scriptures. And along the way, they encounter all sorts of crazy stuff. Demons, gods, trials, you name it. But here's the thing. It's not all serious, you know? Journey to the West is full of humor, satire, and even philosophical musings.
Now you've got me intrigued.
Yeah.
Humor and satire. Like, what? Give me an example.
All right, picture this. The Monkey King's trying to convince this skeptical demon that he's actually a powerful deity. So to prove it, he pulls out this vial of what he claims is holy water.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here. What happens?
Let's just say it turns out to be not so holy.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. It's moments like these that poke fun at authority and dogma, and they add a whole other layer to the story.
See, that's what I love about these classic stories. There's always more than meets the eye.
Exactly, and that's why it's been adapted so many times. Literature, film, opera, and now video games. There's just so much to work with.
And that brings us back to Black Myth, Wukong, which is taking a pretty unique approach to adapting Journey to the West, right?
Absolutely.
What makes this adaptation stand out? We already teased that it's China's first AAA game.
Mm-hmm.
What does that even mean, and why is it so significant?
So AAA basically means it's got a massive budget, and the production value is top-notch. Like, it can compete with those big-budget games we see coming out of the West all the time.
Okay, so this is a big deal for gaming, period.
Huge, but especially for China, because, let's be real, the Chinese government has had a complicated relationship with video games. Censorship, fears of Western influence, it's been a whole thing.
Right, they've been pretty strict out of it.
Exactly. So for Black Myth to come out with this level of sophistication, this level of, I don't know, freedom, it's turning heads.
It's like they're breaking new ground here.
And they're doing it with this clever twist on the familiar Journey to the West story. You see, in this game, you're not actually playing as son Wukong himself.
Wait, really? Now that's a twist. Who am I playing as then?
You're playing as his successor, someone who's destined to inherit his legacy. It's like, what does it mean to carry on the mantle of a legend? It adds this whole other layer to the experience.
Okay, so I get to step into the shoes of the Monkey King's successor, huh? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the actual gameplay. Does it live up to the hype?
Oh, absolutely. Everything I've seen, people are loving the combat system. They've really captured that agility and power of Sun Wukong. And it's challenging, don't get me wrong, but it's fluid. It flows.
I can imagine. And those landscapes, we were talking about how gorgeous they are, battling it out amidst all that beauty.
Seriously, the visuals are incredible, like stepping into a painting.
I did want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, though, the fact that the main character is silent. That's a bold move, right?
Yeah.
Especially with a character like Sun Wukong, who's all about that big personality. How do you think that impacts things?
It's interesting, right? I mean, on the one hand, it forces you to really pay attention to what's happening on screen, to the visuals, to the action. There's no dialogue to guide you, so you're left to interpret things on your own.
We become more of an active participant that way.
Exactly. But, you know, there is that trade-off. Because Sun Wukong, he's known for his wit, his sarcasm. He's always taunting his enemies.
He's a trickster at heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there is some of that classic Journey to the West charm missing, for sure. That playful energy, the humor.
You know what this makes me think about? We were discussing the satire in Journey to the West earlier and how it often poked fun at authority. Do you think the game misses an opportunity there? Especially given, China's relationship with video games and censorship?
Oh, that's a really good point. You're right. Journey to the West was never afraid to be critical, to point out hypocrisy. Think about that holy water scene we talked about.
Oh man, classic.
Right. Total satire. And you can't help but see the parallels with the way the Chinese government has tried to control the gaming industry, right? Concerns about addiction, violence, Western influence. It's like they're trying to control the magic of video games, just like the gods and deities in the story try to control Sun Wukong.
It's like they're afraid of its power to influence.
Yeah. And that's what makes Black Myth Wukong even more interesting. It's navigating this really complex landscape, not just in terms of its visuals and gameplay, but culturally, politically too.
Speaking of cultural impact, this game has definitely sparked conversations about representation, hasn't it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's complicated.
How so?
Well, there's a lot of pride, especially in China. It's this moment to showcase their culture on a global stage, right?
Yeah.
But there's also been backlash.
Really? What kind of backlash?
Some of it's about the portrayal of certain characters, people saying it's not authentic enough to the original text. And then there's the concerns about cultural appropriation, how the game will be received in the West.
It's a lot to consider. It really is a lot, isn't it? And it makes you think about how we were talking about Journey to the West being this commentary on society and the human condition. Even with a video game set in this fantastical world, we're still grappling with these very real issues of culture and representation.
It's true. It shows these conversations, they're never really finished, are they? Always evolving. And it's important to have them, right? To listen to each other, to be sensitive.
100%. Okay, so taking a step back for a second, where do you see Black Myth, Wukong, fitting into things, in the grand scheme of the gaming world? Is this a fluke, or could it be a turning point?
It's hard to say for sure, but I really do think it has the potential to be huge. Because it's not just a visually impressive game, right? It's a statement. Chinese developers saying, hey, we can compete. We can make games that are just as good, even better.
And not just in terms of graphics, but the stories being told, the culture they represent.
Exactly. It could be the start of this whole wave of games drawing from Chinese mythology, history, all of it. And that's exciting, not just for gamers, but for anyone who loves a good story.
Totally. It seems like Black Myth, Wukong is more than just a game, right? It's this whole cultural moment.
It really is. And who knows, maybe you'll even lead some players to pick up Journey to the West, to experience the story that started it all.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? To see the game and then dive into the original text.
Now that's a journey worth taking.
It really is. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into Black Myth Wukong and its fascinating connection to Journey to the West. We've covered a lot of ground, those incredible visuals, the unique gameplay, and of course its impact on gaming and on culture at large. So any final thoughts? What do you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
Well, it's been a pleasure to explore not only this game, but also the bigger picture, the conversations it sparks. Hopefully, our listeners will come away with maybe a deeper appreciation for the power of storytelling, for how important representation is, and, just the sheer possibility of it all when these different art forms, when they come together like this. Pretty amazing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And for our listeners, if all of this has piqued your interest, why not check out Journey to the West for yourselves? We've just scratched the surface of this epic tale. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep diving deep.